we're going to discuss a secret force that's getting unleashed across the NFL through players across every team and in every capacity. This is the force of hypnotherapy. And many people may absentmindedly just describe it saying that it's not going to do anything, it's not going to be powerful or have any beneficial. In this episode, we're going to break down how teams are using psychological advantages, how teams are seeing that psychotherapy is actually all around us, and how shockingly they can implement it during the games to change mindsets of the opponent, to get them in a more docile or aggressive situation, depending upon what your coach is looking to do. Say you're in a fourth down situation and you need your quarterback thrown out of bounds to get that first down. There's ways to do that. And today we're going to be talking to the incredible Boris, who is on the absolute forefront of hypnotherapy. He has written a best-selling book. He has been performing and working with athletes and celebrities for years. So without further ado, local football flavor with the force of hypnotherapy coming across the NFL right now.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, where we talk to local fans to get the real information of what's going on with their team.
So, Boris, thank you for being with us today on Local Football Flavor. And, obviously you're an author. We don't get a whole lot of those here on the show. And why don't we start with...
Keep going.
Why don't we start here up front with you just kind of talking about your expertise and your level and how that led you into the journey of affiliation with various NFL teams.
There's so many teams that I've actually got a chance to not only visit, but see from the inside. I'm a motivational hypnotist. That means I get a chance to deal with people from either the entertainment side, where if you've ever seen a comedy hypnotist, that's what I do most of the time. Yet there's a motivational angle to it. So I come in internally as far as changing mindsets and field play and how people can change the way they think, the way they feel about themselves, about the other team, how everything is interconnected, and basically play a mind game rather than a game.
Well, so how does that work exactly? So is this like the old school when you think of like someone who's never stopped smoking their entire life, they see you for a session and boom, now they think Satan has created cigarettes and we can never touch them again? Is that like how it goes, or is it a little bit more nuanced than that?
It's misconstrued in the movies and in the media when you see the hypnotist has always been played as a Svengali, the guy that goes, "Look into my eyes." And I'm not that guy. I'm a fun person that actually figured out that hypnosis is a science. It's not anything that has to do remotely with religion or Satan or anything else. It's I combine both. My background is computers and psychology. So what I took is figured out that the brain is something that can be programmed and reprogrammed. So the way you are, the way you feel, the way you act with others, that has been built up from the time that you were born, and you were guided by authority figures, by your parents, by schools, by teachers. Society itself says that you should do this. By the time you're 18, you should probably have somebody that you care about, and then take it even further, where you end up getting married, have kids, or whichever way your life leads. It's almost like a timeline that's been put out for you. Well, not everybody lives by the same principle. Same thing. Chances are people that have picked up smoking, they picked up smoking to be cool and to belong to a group. Yet constant repetition, you wake up, you have a smoke and a cigarette. So what a hypnotist does that you would find in a local, hypnotherapy session is change that pattern, where instead of relying on something that you associate with, where you're nervous, you have to have a cigarette. So they take that away from you and change and take your willpower, where you're able to just continue life without having to rely on something like a cigarette. So I took that principle and literally put that into my life. I read a book at some point in time that I involved hypnosis. The book was called The Search for Bridie Murphy, and it's about a gentleman who, through hypnosis, regresses a lady past her birth, and she recounts names, places, and at the end of the book, the guy decides, okay, I'm going to see if any of these places and events happened, and goes and verifies them, and they happen to be true. So I was all freaked out. That's not possible. I need to know more. And I literally read thousands and thousands of books on the subject. And as a teenager, I sort of created a little show around it where I'm a troublemaker, if you like, that figured out how to put that into a show and tell a story. And that took off because I was completely unconventional, where it wasn't what people were expecting. I was literally presenting something fun and funny at the same time. And on top of that, at the end, there's a positive side to it. So I would give people positive suggestions, whether you start feeling better about yourself, you're able to do better on in sports. You can do this, and that led to the next point where I was able to deal with celebrities who would call me and bring me into places where I need better control of the ball on the field. And that's where I sort of kind of fit into this podcast, where you guys are talking about the people that I actually get a chance to meet on a daily, monthly, or regular
Mhm.
time frame, where they come to me saying, I need a different mindset when I go on the field. And I'm able to create that with a trigger word, trigger uh, action, or whatever that might be, where in an instant, mindset goes into overdrive and they're able to deliver. And I can talk about some of the people I've met in the
So,
next little while.
Boris, I have a quick question for you. Actually,
Mhm.
the whole idea of being able to like change your will and figure out a different way to approach your life in general. I'm curious when it comes to like celebrities or athletes, and athletes in particular for our purposes. Have you noticed like a particular age range or a particular like position, like football position on the field, that tends to need their mindset changed a little bit more? Because as Joe and I talk with guests, and as we talk with each other, we often notice that we talk about like, oh, these quarterbacks are thinking too much. If they just go out there and do what they've been taught, and they just go out there and perform, then they'll be fine because their athletic skill set is very good. And then we think about forgotten positions like offensive lineman, tight end, where you have a lot of different jobs to do. Have you noticed a particular age range and or position on the field that tends to ask for your help a little bit more?
Well, sports is a young man's game, whether you like it or not, just because as we get older, we start breaking down. And the older people take hits a lot differently than the younger people, which I'm sure you have watched some of the stuff on social media. But the age range, from what I have seen personally, anywhere from 14, and I've dealt with everything from Olympic stars to the older players, whether it's football or any of the other games. Football seems to be just more populated, and there's a lot more people where uh, I do a lot of publicity interviews where we all come into the same radio stations, and all of a sudden, you get perfect example was in Minneapolis, and the Minnesota Twins players were uh, doing an interview straight after me, but I'm sticking around. Okay, come on over. We'll get hypnotized. All right, that sounds like fun. And we get people on the radio doing different things that you may not realize how real things become, because we all experience hypnosis daily. You slip in and out of trance, whether you realize or not. The way you are on this podcast, you are a specific way that you would be different with, let's say, a child that you're
Mhm.
talking to. So your mental set completely switches to what you are accustomed to. Talking to a little kid, you will lower yourself down to their level and speak straight face to face. This way they can understand a little bit better. But you don't realize that that's a mindset that you have just slipped into, because society told you that a little kid needs to look you face to face. Otherwise, they lose attention. And that's all it is. It's a matter of knowing how to tap into that. And like we've talked before, it's not anything voodoo. It's more like knowing how your brain works and how the programming works from internally outward, where you're able to change stuff. And I took literally everything that I do from the stage to when I talk to the athletes into my life, where you can change. And part of it is everything from body language, the way I'm talking right now, open palm, trust me. So everything that I tend to relate, it comes across more genuine if I'm adding stuff in where I'm tapping into my knowledge to get this knowledge to you and to your audience.
I want to continue this discussion, Boris. And
Yeah.
so, when you look at, say, a player comes to you and says, oh man, coach has been telling me I need to really like pin down and get control over the ball when I'm catching it, or I need to really, study up a little bit more. What is your kind of preparation? And I don't want you to give away all your secrets, right? But what is your preparation for walking into that setting with an individual? Because I'm a teacher, and I know that the way that I teach second grade, so I know the way that I talk to a second grader, just like you said. The way I talk to them individually versus the way I talk to them as a group is much different. So when we think about, like a session one-on-one with an individual versus a session with, say, the whole of the Buffalo Bills, when you go into that and you're prepping for that, is your preparation different? And because, like athletes prepare in different ways too. So I'm just curious how you go about doing that when you're thinking about helping these professional athletes.
Very simple, and I'm going to break it down just like what you were asking. Instead of think of it, what you're trying to do as a movie. So once the movie is in your hands, you can break it down into the little tiny parts. So once you're able to take it and slow it down, including the person's mind, right? We've all been involved in a situation where you're trying to catch the ball, but you are looking at the trajectory of the ball coming to you, the way your hands are supposed to be positioned, whether there's something that is coming to you that will hold the ball back. So we literally break it down from one little tiny detail to another. And how do you slow it down in your mind? Because if you've ever been involved in specifically a scary situation or a situation that tends to mean a lot to you, just like in gameplay, everything slows down in your mind. So once it slows down in your mind, you're able to react. Like a mother where there's a baby pinned under a car, is able to lift that car, and she is not thinking logically about it. She's thinking what needs to be done and how I can do this the right way. So I'm doing the same thing. So I break it down to tiniest little detail where even in the future, when that situation arises, let's say you are faced with catching the ball is coming at you. Where do you have to be placed? How your feet are supposed to be? When do you jump? Do you jump before or after? Whether you need to raise your hands up higher or you want it coming at your chest. So all of that literally will slow it down to the point where you're able to logically figure out what is the best cause of action to get the ball in your hands to even see the people around you. That's what the players do most times anyway. It's just that the coaches are drilling that into them that where they're able to do this without involving the conscious thought, and it happens automatically. So that's what hypnosis is. I'm able to rewrite the programming where the person is actually not thinking but acting as if that's the way it should be.
So, Boris, what it sounds like there is that every human mind has this ability of being able to speed up or really, in your case, slow things down and hyper focus in their own capacity. And what you're doing, and to different degrees of strength in that, and what you're doing is essentially systematically teaching individuals this is how you can turn it on for now. Because, like, I don't need to be this way where I'm hyper knowing everything when I'm out at dinner, but
Mhm.
I do need to know it whenever I'm about to get sacked, and I need to know where am I putting this
What
ball
do I do? And how
downfield.
do I not get hurt doing this?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just giving people the tools that they already have. I don't do anything other than break it down to the person is able to use all of the little details. But I start a lot of times from the entertainment side, where, for me, the best way to learn anything is through entertainment. And a lot of times I'm a keynote speaker where I will come in, or I'll come in as an entertainment. A perfect example, Mike Furry, and you may or may not know the name. He's now a coach, but I came in a little while back, and I'll start dropping names in a second. But uh, I came in to a celebrity golf tournament that Mike Furry was putting on. If I'm not mistaken, it was somewhere in Ohio, maybe Columbus. And one thing they did not tell me that it was a white party, and of course I arrived in a nice, colorful suit. A white party simply means everybody is wearing white except for me. So I was standing out quite a bit, which in entertainment is a good thing, but without my knowledge. So one of the key players on that day was Ryan Fitzpatrick. So the guy just retired, and Ryan, in my show, I will change the situation of whatever it is, and I don't change the people, I change the reality. So the reality changes and people react to that reality to the point where they believe that they're part of that reality. And I'll tell you, first of all, that players are using hypnosis all the time when they're in the zone. And you've heard that term before.
Hmm.
That means they're basically taking themselves, hypnotizing themselves into a specific way of doing stuff where they're ready to go, and they're using all of the tools at that point in time. So in my show, I change a person's name, and they're usually the star of the performance. And Ryan was one of those, and he didn't have a beard at that point in time. So that should tell you how far back that was. So I give a person named Chip, and throughout the whole performance, I screwed up, well, purposefully, but they don't know that. And I'll call him anything but. So I'll call him Chief, Skip, anything but Chip, which is, according to them, is their name. And they'll get progressively more and more upset. But I'm trying to show the audience how to control everything from anger to how to be able to speak up for yourself and how to handle the situation in the right way. So I'm trying to get the people to talk, and Ryan was an absolute wonder with that. Now, the reason I'm getting to is he changed many teams ever since, but the performance remained constant. And back then, if I'm not mistaken, he was with Buffalo Bills. So that's a little a while back, or he was just transferred to Buffalo Bills, and many teams later to Miami, you name it, where at this point in time, the man has amassed an amazing career. But I
Hmm.
simply showed him at that time how to tap into your ability and increase it bigger and better. And the guy is a joker and a smart one to start off with. And he went to Harvard. So that should tell you one of the few players that is educated and has that uh, behind them. So
Hmm.
so Ryan, if by any chance you are watching this podcast, email me, say hello. I haven't talked to you in a long, long time, but absolutely love the fact that I'm able to plant that seed, and the seed keeps growing, and people, whether they realize it or not, are tapping into their potential.
So, Boris, additional question here, and I don't know how you might answer this, but when what do you see? And what I'm hearing from you is that a lot of players come up to you because they feel out of the zone and they feel like they need to perform better because something's going wrong. Do you tend to feel, and you can take this across all of your work because I know you've done a lot of different things in your life. So when people come up to you, do people come up to you and ask you to be like, okay, I need to get better, or do they say like, I need to get rid of all of these distractions? Is it a I need to get better, or is it a, I need to remove this so that I can now focus on this?
Right. Well, the best players are the ones that can focus in an instant. So it's just literally teaching them how to focus better. We all have distractions. So
Mhm.
the distractions, even on the field, there's a guy screaming, there's another guy trying to run into you, and you constantly have to make sure that you're doing the right stuff. The way sports work is you have to block everything out and concentrate on the task at hand. So if the play is going in a specific direction, you have to make sure that your job is done that way. And the ones that succeed the best are the ones that are able to take uh, that direction and turn it on in an instant. Specifically with hypnosis, you hear, and I'm sure people who are not familiar with hypnosis, you hear about people snapping their fingers and something happens. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And that's exactly what I teach people through not only repetition, but I install what are called triggers, where once you're in that situation, this is what happens. I spent a lot of time, uh, and I'm deviating a little bit. If you have ever seen people with really weird phobias on the Maury Povich show,
Oh
I'm the
yeah.
guy that helps them. So for many years, they would bring me in and they would throw the most unusual situations that what people are scared of. It would be things like balls, a chicken, uh, flowers, you name it. The more unconventional, they were. It's a formula. They bring people on because that's what they're afraid of. My job is to make sure that they handle whatever they were terrified of by the end of that show. And it was filmed in two parts. In the beginning, they would show what people are afraid of, and they would. It's a procedure called flooding, where they bring out whatever they're terrified of to show what reaction comes out of them. And then here you go, Boris. Take these people for an hour or so backstage, and they film another show in between, and then we film the end where they come out and handle whatever they were terrified of. So the process is not that long. It's just a matter of tapping into that person's potential, including the fears and phobias, which, just like PTSD, they stem from an event. You are scared of something that happened, and that triggers your response because we're fight or flight response. We're all concerned with what we do and self-preservation. So once you, there was a lady who was terrified of balloons, and that's the most disheartening. Part of it was she wouldn't take her kid to a birthday party because there would be balloons there. So same sort of thing. Once you're able to deal with it, and here's a balloon, and all of a sudden that person is holding a balloon for the first time, or birds, where a person would not come outside, but that would stem from a moment where a bird attacked or stole a French fry as a kid. Uh, right, we all either have seen that or witnessed it on one level or another. Yet
Mhm.
some people tend to associate it. So I use in hypnosis the same association uh, to achieve a positive thing. I literally, there was a lot of negatives in my life, which I changed into positives. And I can't say that enough, that there's no limits. The only one that's limiting anything in your path is you. So
Yeah.
once you break that pattern of self doubt or inability to, I can't. Why not? Of course you can. You can do whatever is in front of you. You just never tried.
Now,
And
Joe, I know I've gotta ask this, and Boris, if you could bring the mic a little bit closer to you too, just
I
so
certainly
because we're
can.
still getting a
Yes.
little bit of that fluttering happening.
Yeah.
Really, an important question for me. I mean, what you're saying is very, very intriguing because like I said, I teach, and a lot of it is there's a lot of behavior modification. There's a lot of what can we do to help you get to the next level? What can we do to help you now? One of the things that I'm very, very curious about, particularly when it comes to professional athletes, is that do you often revisit with the same groups of people? Is this something that they can manage once they have the strategy and the triggers and whatnot? is it something they can manage on their own, or is it something that they have to continue to come back to you for, or continue to come back to others for, in order to get it ingrained in their system that, like, okay, this is my new reality now, and this is what I am going to do?
Very important question, and I'm glad you asked that. You hear about same thing. I will refer to people smoking. Some people will go to a therapist and quit in one session, while others will go to 15 and walk out and light up a cigarette. Right. So the way I'm looking at it, it depends on the personality. It depends on how much a person has invested interest. Uh, Specifically with athletes, the amount of money that they get paid is based on performance. If they're doing well, then their money skyrockets. If they're not doing well, they're sitting on the bench and nobody's using them.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times the ability is there, and if the ability is there, you can bring it out. Sometimes it needs to be reinforced, meaning uh, a hypnosis session can be uh, used to trigger an even better performance, or some people will be absolutely fine with one session. So depending on the person, so I can't guarantee one or the other. Some people need a little bit more, some people need a little bit less. Just like when you work out, you can lift up the stuff because your natural ability is there, and other times you have to work at it.
So on that question, and with those examples, I know that I've seen, probably was you in retrospect, being on Maury, and I think about, like, there's no way that radical of a transformation can happen in. Now you've told me it's 2 hours, but even in one day, like it just felt like these had to be paid actors that just went over the top in the beginning. But now they're cool, and what you're telling me is no, this really can happen that quickly, and it
Oh,
really can be imbued. So with my question, that is, knowing what Bob said and knowing what you just answered there, says sometimes some people get it instantly and some people settle it in. When we do get those big dramatic, are they like a wave where it just all the water's hitting now, but eventually it's going to recede, or does it become a permanent effect where instead of it being a dimmer switch, it's now just toggled, we're fixed, and we don't need to revisit this once that big change has occurred?
Well, it can fade. Just we all get involved in our own head. There's voices in our heads, whether you
Mhm.
realize or not. You talk to yourself. You talk to yourself. You call yourself stupid. You call yourself smart. And, I should pat myself on the shoulder. I did an amazing job putting this box together, right? So we all do that. We need validation. Yet, what happens? The way hypnosis works, the ability is there. A hypnotist simply enhances your ability. If you have the ability, if you have the knowledge, if you have the want to succeed, I can get you there. So what I do as a hypnotist, I simply act as a guide. I don't do it for you. So the person's investment is over and above what I do. I can get you there halfway, but as far as unfortunately, there's life that gets in the way. Kids, wives, food, whatever else gets involved, and you forget. So once in a while, it may need to get reinforced. For some people, and maybe years later, others have the drive. You know of people who uh, will learn and can sell anything to anybody. Why? Because that's what they go after. Exactly. And a
So,
lot of
I
all
mean,
right,
Joe's an incredible salesman. He could sell you like peanut butter that's been like dipped in hydrochloric acid. That's how good of a salesman he is. And but it's interesting
that's true.
that you said that, Boris, about voices in your head, because I was actually listening to something, and I can't remember if it was another podcast or anything, or if it was just like a YouTube video. But I heard that there is a term, and I don't remember what the term is, for a person that doesn't have a voice in their head. Because, as you said, almost all of us does have a voice in their head, but there are people out there, and I was quite surprised to actually learn this, that when I go to the store, I like make a list in my head, and I have a conversation with myself in my head sometimes while I'm driving in the car, and I'm like, oh, I need to remember this. I'm like, oh, that idiot in the car over there, like what is, so like, but there are people that can't do that, and there are people that don't know how to do that. Now, like, if you are a person that, and I see, you see people, you see doubters all the time say, like, oh, I can't be hypnotized, oh, that's a bunch of, a poppycock. And I say, is it maybe that they don't have that inner like monologue to guide them through to the next step? What are your feelings about that?
This episode is sponsored by the podcast Father and Joe. Father and Joe aims to bring individuals into a better relationship with God. Each episode discusses an element of the human experience that we all can relate to, as well as questions about faith. What are indulgences? What's going on with purgatory? Why can I mentally grasp the concept of God, but I don't feel Him in my heart? During each episode of Father and Joe, we are invited to enhance our relationships, and in doing so, we will improve ourselves and society. Download Father and Joe every Tuesday.
We thank you for watching this episode of Local Football Flavor. We know there's a lot of different things you can be doing with your time, so thank you for checking us out. As always, we're always looking for sponsors to join us. If you're looking to relate to an audience that might be outside of your normal comfort zone, this is a great way to do it. Football fans that are following us here on Local Football Flavor are dedicated people that are down to earth. And it's a great way to get your product placed in front of them. Reach out to us in the links below, and we love hearing from you. And also, if you want to represent your team, come on and join us. We love hearing other opinions from their fans about what's really going on with their team. We look forward to talking with you and enjoy the rest of the show.
The feeling is actually kind of neat. I believe that everybody, unless you have mental issues, everybody can be hypnotized, and we all slip in and out of trance. The people that you refer to are actually savants, where they may see stuff and they hear music in color or something of that nature, but they still will have voices. We all talk to ourselves, whether it's in a way somebody cuts you off, you do. Right? Guess what? That's a voice that just said something that you might not have verbalized. So I truly believe that our voices is what guides us, and the voices come from your mother and father told you specific stuff, that this is how you do things, and you don't jump off of the sledge because it's too high. You might hurt yourself until you actually fall off and hurt yourself. You don't realize, and then I guess they were telling the truth. So the voices are always there. When you're saying there are people, there's so few and far in between that we all have something to say. We all have something that needs to be acknowledged. And a lot of times we do stuff to, a perfect example, why do people go into sports? Whether do they really care about a crowd of people cheering the money, or they try to prove something to themselves, their parents, or whoever. There's a reason why we do everything. So once you break down those reasons and figure out how to use it for your own positive sake, everything changes. I literally, my background is the inability to have anything. I come from absolutely nothing, in the sense where my parents came to North America, and all I ever wanted to do was succeed. And in order to succeed, I have done stuff that everybody said is impossible. Well, my words, and I live by those 4 words: I can do anything. And I live by that. And shameless plug, I wrote a book with that title because I lived that. When people said you can't, I did. And I literally have been doing my little hypnosis thing, if you like, all over the world, from entertaining troops in Afghanistan and Kuwait to Japan, Amsterdam. I've been all across North America, Canada, US, doing what I do, just because somebody might have even considered that it's impossible. And
So,
I'll tell you another little thing, that not everything is successful. So when you see people successful, that's like perfect, Instagram, social media, TikTok. You're only seeing a snapshot that's this big.
mhm.
They may have failed a whole bunch. I did.
Mhm.
I'll be the first one to say that not everything that you see that was successful uh, came out to be such an amazing thing. It's just that the failures are overpowered by successes. So,
so two clarifying questions to that, because I really like the message here. So it starts with the guy having a sufficient want to, and that want can be different things from what you said. It can be the attention from the crowd, the parents. It can be the not wanting to disappoint yourself. It can be the money. And I think we can all draw conclusions to people that we've seen that were drafted, and the only thing they cared about was the money. They got the check, and then they really didn't care about football. I think Jamarcus Russell, for all of us Raiders fans out there, can really highlight that. The guy got picked first overall, got a gajillion dollars, and then basically gained 100 pounds in all the wrong ways across the next two seasons, and that's how it went. So, what my question for you is that if does it matter what the cause of the 1-2 is
Mhm.
there, or is it just how big is the 1-2? Like if you're turned up to an 11 for the money, is that as powerful for you to work with as turned up to an 11 for the crowd loving you and the pleasing of the people around you?
um, I never really cared for the pleasing of the people, because for me, being on a stage, I get that gratification. I actually found it difficult, uh, having done a ton of virtual stuff during the pandemic,
Ooh, yeah.
where the response was not there. So just because I'm a live performer for decades, and while people are sitting there petting their cat, or have their the camera turned off, I'm talking to a camera rather than a real person. Like it's fun being able to talk to you because you are responding back. But at times, some of these presentations were without a lot of response, where the message was still there. The message was wonderful and powerful, yet I did not get as much out of it as I would get from a crowd that instantly was able to respond with laughter or with something else. So at that point, it does not make a difference to me. But I'll tend to gravitate personally more to people like Mike Furry, who I mentioned before. And if you don't know who he is, please Google him, find out. The guy does so much behind the scenes. And my first introduction to him was where he brought me in to the event that he was holding. But they go to hospitals to see sick children. They will, without being named what they are doing, deliver food to people who need it. So there's stuff behind the scenes that is a lot more worthwhile than just play on the field. So a lot of these guys do so much more, and there's a culture around it. This is what you do on the field, but just like in my uh, career, where the actual performance maybe is an hour and a half. The rest of the time, you have no idea how long the travel is to the venue, how uh, behind the scenes, the people that I have worked with after the fact, or one of the most gratifying things, and I mentioned it already, I went to Afghanistan and Kuwait to entertain troops. We're talking huge flights to get to I have been there to Afghanistan twice, to Bagram and to Kandahar, where we had huge shows, and the chefs that I was with, they brought food to give soldiers a little taste of home, a little food, a little entertainment, and I found it more gratifying than anything else. The fact that when we got there, yes, sir, no, sir. And at the end, I was able to hug people. That barrier between us was broken, and come on over here. Thanks for coming. Nobody ever does. So to me, that is worth a lot more. And I personally tend to gravitate towards that rather than just, okay, improve my field game.
So when we're talking about back to the NFL here, we're talking about a guy here. Say he's just getting ready to enter the NFL here. He's getting ready to go through the whole combine pre-draft process as the Senior Bowl is just in a couple of weeks around the corner here. Are you going to be able to, at the end of the day, say, I sit down with you, I'm going to be able to help you get past the mental hurdles that hold you back from training efficiently? Like we all at some point hit some pain wall where we just want to stop. And I know firsthand that some of that is mental, where my mind just doesn't want to deal with this anymore, and I can play through it. And then there is obviously a physical breaking point where your knee just literally breaks. So, are you able to help people with that in the sense that we're going to help you build up stronger? Are you able to help with people that say maybe they have more strength in their body than they know how to do? Like by talking to you, they're able to run 0.2 of a second faster than they would have otherwise. Are you able to do stuff like that that translates into the measurables on the field opposed to just feeling like I'm in a zone?
Well, anything is possible. What happens with an issue that you just brought up? I would have a play by play, just like what they would have on the field, what needs to be done. And what the coaches a lot of times will provide, I need this improved. How do you improve this? And break it down, and that maybe it's your running game, maybe it's the mental game. So all of that falls into the same category where the mental state changes along with the final product that you're trying to achieve. So to me, it's one and the same, literally, where once you get into the mind, you can change anything else. So if you need to lift more, if you need to be stronger, then you should probably be spending more time developing that side of it. Or if you're on the field and you need to run faster, then your running game has to be taken care of. And if it's a mental thing, then that's the easiest one. I can take care of the mental uh, part for the simple reason that if you're stopping yourself or you're hitting that mental wall, just like runners where they're running a marathon, there's a certain inability to function after, okay, I'm done. No, you're not done. There's an extra 3 minutes. But
So
you can still keep going. So, yeah, most of it is a mental game, and that's the easiest thing to deal with, and most people don't realize that.
so
Joe,
seeing how much
I want to ask a question building off of some examples that Boris that you were giving so far. The you mentioned that the experience with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you mentioned just that he was enjoyable to work with, and that in general that it was a really great experience. Is there when someone comes to you, particularly the NFL teams, maybe even a college football team, is there any experience that sticks out to you as a memorable moment, to say like, wow, like that experience really changed my viewpoint about maybe an individual, or maybe it changed my viewpoint about my career? Is there any experience that you've had that you would be allowed to share with us in relation to that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the more memorable things that I have done is just actually before the pandemic. Uh, Larry Fitzgerald, talk about Fitz, uh, was responsible for bringing me into one of the Arizona Cardinals events where they were raising money for people. And this was halfway through the season, so it's not necessarily uh, they're all gung ho. but there were people there with little casts on, and so a lot of them not only needed the push to feel better about themselves, because at that point in time, let's say that somebody uh, would be on the sideline rather than playing at that point in time, but the mental state that look, I'm still contributing to the team, I'm still a part of it, even though I might not be able to collaborate on the field itself, but I'm a part of the team. And to me, everything from team building to the ability to give them the positivity is a more important thing than just okay, here's just a show. Because at the end of the performance, whenever I come into an event like this, I always institute everything from being able to do better on the field to being able to feel better about yourself.
And now,
So
is there a player or a team or a coach? Sorry for interrupting. This just intrigues me so much, Joe.
Oh,
me too. Yeah.
I'm
here's
very
still hasn't
intrigued.
stopped being intriguing. I promise you.
So I'm curious. Is there any so you mentioned Larry Fitzgerald, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is there any NFL player or coach, particularly coaches, and college football coaches and NHL coaches, whatever? Yeah, I'm going to broaden the spectrum a little bit. Is
Mhm.
there any individual that has come back to you to say, "Wow, like you changed these players' lives to the degree that we're having some sticky situations this year, and I'd love to have you come back." Is there like a guy, a woman, a man, a they, them? Like, is there anybody that comes back to you and says, "We'd love you back because we're having some issues," and then they see that and they're like, "Yes, like we always talk about making a difference," and you've mentioned it quite a few times about all of these situations that we come and can rise out of. Have you noticed like any particular coach that has said like, "Hey, like I need this. This is what I need to feel successful." Can you speak on that a little bit?
I do get it all the time, yet I cannot name names as far as who would be involved, just because one, I see people over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and a lot of times there's even different things that I would leave people behind with without me having to be there, because hypnosis itself is not necessarily me being in front of a person. It can be triggered after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, um, I will leave. I created some MP3 recordings, whether it's anxiety and stress relief to relaxation and motivation, where I'm able to here. You don't need me after I'm gone. You're able to deal with this. Just put this recording on before you are ready to fall asleep, or before you are ready to put together uh, your game effort for the next time. As far as coaches, uh, I've heard the fact that yes, you have changed the way I think, the way I feel. You've changed my life. Yet I didn't do anything. I really didn't. I simply pushed people in the right direction where their abilities are shining, and I can't take credit for it. I'm sorry to say, and I'm trying to be humble in that sense, where I'm not the catalyst. I'm simply the person that was able to show them how uh, they were able to do this all along.
Yeah, you think with something as important as figuring out how to reprogram your mind that it would be more commonplace that, but I understand what you're saying. You're not physically pushing them down the road. You're just showing them
Right.
a
I'm not the one
pathway
catching
that's
the
hard to
ball.
find. Well, so what my question is, and this is something that I've been wondering, is this is clearly effective. This is clearly useful for those that want to take advantage of it. When you come to specifically an NFL crowd, um, and is this something that when you start presenting your message and how it's effective, is this something that you find that most players have been exposed to in the past, or you're essentially introducing this concept to the first time for them?
Actually, I'm not the first nor the last to introduce the concept. Uh, the players and the coaches constantly use mind games, where they're trying to get the other team in a specific mindset, while your team is in the offensive mindset. Right, that's the bottom line.
Hmm.
Where uh, the coaches create and they use everything from individual, the hypnotist coming in to where we deal with all of the players at all times. And I deal with the I don't believe this or it's not real on a daily basis. Yet when you show people that, yes, you can actually change the way people are, the way they react, the mindsets, and when somebody does not believe in themselves enough, or you can uh, almost show it in a day on the field. That literally relates to scores and wins in comparison to losses, or even the feeling at the end of the game, even after you lose. Right? It's never great to lose. It's always wonderful to win, but we can't all be winners. And as long as you win most of the time, that's what gets people.
So, Boris, with you here, a question just came to me that if I didn't ask it, my dad would actually kill me, because you understand the mindset of all this.
Mhm.
In the mid 80s, the University of Iowa made their entire locker room bubblegum pink. Like every single feature of it was bubblegum pink. Does that make a tangible difference to a team environment? As we're talking about trying to get the opposing team in an unproductive mindset, can things like the color of a room do that, or is it mostly just a gimmick for recruiting?
Yes, yes, and yes, one more time. In the 90s and early 2000s, I owned comedy clubs, and we have painted the rooms purple with beautiful pictures of comedians on the walls. Reason for purple is purple entices people to become a little bit more hungry. So
Oh,
uh, I would completely agree with that. So pink is a color that I guess they would. Uh, well, you're talking about it right now, so I would assume. What are you, girly girls? Come on, get out in the field and go get them. So that might have enticed the players to be a little bit more manly and more uh, vicious on the field. So I would definitely assume that that played really a huge factor.
huh. So the
Dude,
whole color
colors
thing is real. How
colors are
about that?
huge. Like your wall behind you for some people would be like super anxiety inducing, Joe.
My
Or
orange.
on the other hand, would be very, very relaxing.
That's what I get
Exactly.
out of
Especially
it.
if I talk into the microphone in this voice.
all
As a
the
hypnotist, people tend to expect you to speak in a monotone voice. Yet I've always been incredibly unconventional, and that's where the performance came in. And I've been lucky enough to have gotten on a bunch of talk shows where, uh, uh, just to let you know, Robert Irvine show, if you're familiar with who he is, has a show called Restaurant Impossible on the Food Network.
Hmm.
Well, he
Yeah.
and I went to Afghanistan together. So when we get back, uh, he has a talk show. So invites me on the show itself. So it's just a matter of opening up doors, creating beliefs, showing what you've got. But I am a troublemaker that found his calling. So I tend to present what I do. I have an odd sense of humor where I find that my ability to tell a story on stage. I'm a comedian who found hypnosis as a medium, and yet there's a positive side. So guess what? We're going to throw that in as well. So it's a smorgasbord of look at this cool stuff, yet we're going to have fun at the same time and learn. What do you mean learn? How is that possible? There's positivity. You're going to walk away with more questions than you have come in with, and I'm going to give you the tools to make it positive and fun, and use it in your life. So that's literally what I became. I found a way to present something that's incredibly unconventional, because back when I started, there was no hypnotists being mainstream. It was considered voodoo and taboo, and don't look into my eyes, and people would talk to me this way. And I present something completely different, fun, exciting, and you control minds. I don't control minds. I just change reality. And that reality is what you can do for yourself. And once you're able to do it for yourself, everything changes. Everything becomes fun. You're starting, uh, most people will go to work and come back and have dinner and then go to sleep. What about enjoying life? And when you figure out that, hey, I'm supposed to really like what I am, what I do, do you hate your job? Then why do you go to work? Find something that you like. That I did. I don't work a day in my life just because I have found something that I don't mind going to. Yes, it takes sometimes 15-hour flights to get there, but I love the whole experience. Uh, where they bring me in to one of the cool things that I got a chance to do. They brought me into Dubai for Women Global Leaders Conference, where in that part of the world, I get to empower girls, women who otherwise may not get a chance to do that. So, yeah, I implore everybody, find something that you're passionate about, and there's no other way of going about it. Like your viewers, your listeners,
Mhm.
they're passionate about football. Then why don't you find something, whether it's volunteer work or whether it's anything else, where you find yourself maybe on the field selling popcorn? Hey, popcorn here, to the folks, come on right in, where it fits into what you absolutely love. So that hobby, uh, my hobby became my career. So I implore everybody else to do the same thing.
Perfect. Well, we certainly thank you for being on here, Boris. I mean, there's just a ton of questions, and I find this entire topic fascinating. And I do, as we let every guest do, I want to give you a chance to go full screen and kind of tell people about what it is that you want to promote here in any capacity. Literally, the floor is yours. Do with
Oh,
it as you will.
sure. Talk about self promotion. The only thing that I really am passionate about is these four words: you can do anything. And literally, I live by those words. Uh, the book, I just fairly recently narrated it, so it's even available on Audible. If you drive long distances, which I just recently did, stick the book on the car. It'll help you drive all the way through. And I narrated it. It's my story, how I got to where I am now. And if you really want to know more, I have a website, incredibleBoris.com. Now, incredible is not by choice. When I started out and I was a teenager, promoters didn't know what to do with me. So the name Boris did not jive with them. My last name is Cherniak. I do not hide it, but it's sort of difficult to pronounce and spell. So I became the Incredible Boris because promoters kept adding incredible, stupendous, amazing. I've been everything. So at this point in time, I just figured I gave up and became Incredible Boris. That's where the website name comes from. If you can't find it, just Google me. I promise you, Boris Hypnotist, Incredible Boris will come right up. Thank
Beautiful.
you
Well,
so much. You guys are awesome, and I'm so happy to be
well,
part of it.
thank you for
Thank you,
being
Boris.
here.
We're
And
super
yeah,
happy.
absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you guys all out there, all team players. Please continue to click like and subscribe, and we will be with you again here next time.
And please subscribe now.